But Google made a decision. Rather than be defeated by ChatGPT, they'd rather disrupt themselves. This is what Google's AI mode is all about. The moment you select this mode, Google Search transitions to Google Gemini. In this scenario, what happens to traditional search advertising? The fundamental rules need to be reset. Page views will no longer be the KPI. This is called AI visibility. How much exposure do we get in AI? That's the crucial question. We conducted some research on this. We examined visibility from various perspectives using ChatGPT, Perplexity, and Gemini, and found that no major media outlets ranked within the top 10. When it came to cited articles, specialized journals were overwhelmingly number one. This suggests that AI search is giving more weight to these specialized publications.
Hello, this is Jaewon Lee. Google I/O recently took place. It's Google's developer conference. Many new technologies were unveiled, and these are expected to have a significant impact on the AI-driven business market. So, I'd like to discuss this impact with Dr. Jung-soo Kang. Hello, Dr. Kang.
Yes, hello.
So, could you explain what changes the announcements from Google I/O might bring to the AI-driven search market and the broader business landscape?
I believe there are two main pillars to the significant changes we're seeing. This year's slogan was, "Research becomes reality," wasn't it?
Oh, no.
In this context, what Google demonstrated, particularly concerning business and the economy, is that they've fundamentally altered the basic properties of the World Wide Web. Perhaps our current practice of clicking links and navigating link-centrically, considering the long history and future possibilities, might have just been an early transitional phenomenon. I believe they've changed the way the World Wide Web operates. This will fundamentally alter the operating principles for related media, marketing, and other associated sectors. This is because Google has, until now, globally dominated 90% of the search market. For a 90% market share player to change its operating principles means that the established order of all related industries will inevitably shift. I see this as a historically significant decision, and I think reality was used in a dual sense. In the sense that Google DeepMind unleashed everything they had been researching, starting with Project Astra, they've moved beyond the limited user interface of chatbots, crossed the multimodal boundary, and are enabling AI to enter real physical spaces. By laying this first bridge, I believe they've taken a very significant first step in the history of AI model development and the future of related industry development. So I think it was a truly meaningful event.
So the World Wide Web is disappearing or changing. Isn't navigating through links Google's competitive edge? They gather and show all the world's links. If that disappears, is Google giving up something of itself?
That's why I think Google made a truly astounding decision. For a company like Google, what you witnessed was technological innovation, but underneath it lies a massive business innovation. Because, Google is a company that's over 20 years old.
Yeah.
Advertising revenue currently accounts for about 75% of their total revenue. It's an advertising company. What's the absolute majority of this? Search advertising. They're making a fortune in the search ad market. Numerous marketing agencies buy Google ads to sell products, and for SMEs, how would they do business without Google Search, Instagram ads, or Google Search ads? They're responsible for everything and making money. The most surprising thing is the AI mode. At Google I/O 2024, Google announced what they called AI overviews, which are search summaries. Like Naver Knowledge In, it summarizes the answer right at the top, with traditional links appearing below. The AI mode is identical to how search results appear in ChatGPT or Perplexity. So, in effect, selecting AI mode transitions Google Search to Google Gemini. When you search, the results are presented directly in a narrative format, synthesizing numerous links, much like Perplexity or ChatGPT. It could also read this out to me via voice. Then if I want to see the sources, I have to click on Sources to finally see them and access the original sites. This means I might not need to visit the linked sites at all, as the AI summarized information becomes sufficient. So, if this happens, the World Wide Web is connected by links, but users don't need to visit those linked places via the web because all the information is resolved right here. This decision has been made. In this situation, where does traditional search advertising go?
Where does this go?
Google has now developed new products. After Google I/O, they continued to hold events with marketers. There, Google introduced what their ad products in AI mode would look like and also presented marketing agents to marketers. So they're saying, don't worry too much, you can continue to sell products.
The channel is open.
The channel is open because if this channel closes, a significant revenue stream dies. So they're saying, we'll even provide agents now so that the existing system can operate even more affordably. And they say there are ad products here too, but it's still a concern. It's important that those ad products work, but besides them, we also did things through search engine optimization. What happens to that? And if people don't visit our sites, what about our metrics? Since the World Wide Web emerged, what has been our performance indicator? Visitor numbers, page views, right? Page views are no longer the KPI. So what happens to media companies? What about page views? For corporate content marketing too, it was page views. How many visitors came through this? What was the conversion rate of visitors to actual buyers? We measured this, but how do you measure conversion rates if they don't visit?
This changes everything for marketers.
Not just marketers, people who wrote blogs there too. No matter how much I blog, what's the use? I checked today's blog visitors, 0. Tomorrow's visitors, 0 again. Media companies look at their external visitors, and compared to traditional numbers, daily page views have dropped to 1/10. Consider media companies. What if visitors no longer arrive via search? In Korea, the impact might be somewhat mitigated due to Google's lower search market share. However, across European nations, Google's global search market share is 90%. The fundamental operation of links tied to this 90% is set to change. In the US media, there's even talk like the organic web market is dead. That's why AI mode is approaching as a massive shock. But for Google's management to decide on something that could cause such a huge shock, something that could be a cannibalization effect, ordinarily, they would have tried to protect this market.
Exactly, there has been a lot of talk about what to do.
Yes, and some media outlets are reporting excerpts from Google executives' meeting minutes saying, rather than lose it to competitors, let's take it ourselves. In Korea, Naver is number 1. Independently, YouTube is second, then Google, then Instagram. ChatGPT is now entering the scene. ChatGPT allows search without logging in. It's now possible even without logging in, meaning it's aiming to become a general-purpose search service. That's why they're also interested in the browser market. As you know, Perplexity is also preparing a browser called Comet. They're all trying to enter the browser market. They're trying to enter the search market one way or another. They will take Google's market share. And ChatGPT, OpenAI mentioned they're starting a social networking service. Will they not do DMs then? They'll get into messenger services. Then they'll try to take Kakao's market share too. They'll attack Naver, they'll attack Kakao, attack Google, attack Instagram. They'll take a piece of everything. As this market expands, Google was the first to be attacked. But Google decided, simply put, rather than be defeated by ChatGPT, we'll defeat ourselves. Then they retain market leadership, and this is Google's AI mode. What I'm saying is how risky a decision this is, because it's very difficult to predict these market fluctuations in advance. If the traditional search ad market disappears at, say, 160 kilometers per h, while the new AI search market in AI mode grows at around 80 kilometers per h, Alphabet's quarterly earnings could take a significant hit in the interim. However, thinking they'll eventually capture it all, Google is taking on this challenge. Rather than lose this market to others, we'll lose it to our own service. Choosing such a strategy is very risky, but I see it as a courageous and innovative choice. I want to applaud Google's and Alphabet's management for this. I believe significant changes will occur in Korea as well. Naver launched a service called AI Briefing in March 2025. Of course, it's not something you encounter frequently.
I think it does pop up occasionally.
Well, it appears sometimes it will gradually expand. Naver is barely catching up, but going one step further than AI overviews.
To give you the entire scope.
To give the entire scope. Right. It means converting to a chatbot-like interface, and then subsequent questions are also handled by the chatbot. The UI UX will become the same as Perplexity and ChatGPT. Google first launched AI overviews in the US in May last year and expanded it to Korea in December last year. They will probably expand it once the ad products are developed. They've been developing ad products and already unveiled them at follow-up events after I.O. This means it will come to Korea in December at the earliest, or by January or February next year at the latest. So, Naver has to come up with a response before the coming winter passes.
Less than half a year left then.
Right, otherwise people will say, oh, for ChatGPT I have to visit the site separately and sign up. But Naver users still use that. And the Wall Street Journal article from November 29th last year said, Googling is for old people. Young people don't use it. They are trying to change the operating principles of the World Wide Web like this, right or wrong. If Naver doesn't respond to this, Naver could lose its search market share in Korea. But I expect Naver will also enter this market and make adjustments. They will change. They'll naturally react. Then, if Google and Naver change in Korea, all media companies that relied on search traffic and all marketers who did search advertising will have to reset their basic rules. Page views will no longer be the KPI. What will be the KPI then? This is called AI visibility. How much exposure do we get in AI? What helps AI visibility? That becomes the concern.
When I first joined the company, around that time, there were real-time search queries. When the online team wrote articles, how well they reflected these real-time search queries affected visibility. But now AI is taking that over, right?
Correct. When AI takes over, how high our visibility or AI visibility will be becomes crucial. Our company does some work in this area, so we investigated using POSCO as a case study. We examined the visibility of the company POSCO from various angles using ChatGPT, Perplexity, and Gemini. Major media outlets didn't appear at all within the top 10. For cited articles in POSCO's case, surprisingly, the number one source was a publication called the Steel and Metal News.
So it's a specialized journal then?
The specialized journal was overwhelmingly number one. This indicates that Gemini, ChatGPT, and Perplexity are giving more weight to such specialized publications.
So AI determines that these sources have covered the topic professionally for a long time, understand the issue well, and are familiar with the terminology. Is that how it works?
Actually, at Blue.ai within our company, we inevitably have to approach such visibility issues from a reverse engineering perspective. We do this by regularly and repeatedly asking numerous questions, then mining all the cited sources from the responses to classify them. And when we performed this classification, it turned out that the Steel and Metal News came out as the number one source. We've analyzed further, and YouTube is also frequently cited. YouTube generally ranks around third. This means, from a corporate perspective, you need to do marketing and PR on YouTube. But the important thing is to also analyze the channels. Whether the channel scale is large or small.
So official channels missing?
No, it includes them and mixes everything. So you don't have to collaborate only with so-called influencers. Influencer collaboration is also necessary. So depending on the issue, influencer content might be cited a lot. But a tip I can give is that expertise and authority are considered very important. This AI visibility means AI values authority and expertise more highly. So it cites specialized journals much more than major media outlets. And on YouTube too, specialized YouTubers, though of course they might have fewer followers or subscribers. It's about having a defined domain. Just as it doesn't cite large media outlets much, rather than large channels covering various topics, it prefers those with expertise on a specific topic, people who have been covering it for a long time. For example, when looking at the Galaxy S25, it's not about covering the S25 for the first time, but rather consistently creating videos every time a Galaxy product is launched. Then naturally, the AI is highly likely to source information about the Galaxy S25 from this person. So I believe understanding this logic itself is becoming extremely important right now.
From a user's perspective, the very concept of Googling has changed. In the past, finding specific links determined whether you were good at Googling or not.
That's why we use bookmarks, right?
Yes, exactly. But for suppliers, those who provided content to the www media companies like ours, numerous other media outlets and bloggers, this is actually a huge change from their perspective.
It could even be a disaster.
Indeed, in the past, even if links appeared somewhat equally, we would still see where the link was from before clicking. But now, if it just comes out in a block with almost no individual links visible until you specifically look for them.
Right, the sources are listed, perhaps numbered and grayed out. But how many people will actually click through to see them?
If the summary is satisfactory, people are unlikely to click.
That means visitor numbers will decrease proportionally.
That's a bit concerning. Should that happen, then of course, as you mentioned, the situation could change again if new advertising models or similar ones emerge. However, in the interim, wouldn't such a scenario temporarily cause the market that supplies content for AI to draw from to shrink somewhat?
The initial shock will be significant, and this will be a big shock for Alphabet too, because if the AI search ad market doesn't grow as fast as the traditional search ad market declines, this imbalance can have a major impact on quarterly earnings. Why? Because Google's global market share is so high at 90%. And because search advertising dependence is such a massive part of Google's business and revenue model, this is bound to have a huge impact. So the first biggest change I saw at this I/O was the full-fledged rollout of AI mode. This caught my eye as the most significant change because it will alter the way the World Wide Web, as I've known it, operates. The second thing I noticed was the word reality. Where I sensed this reality was with VO3. It's truly astounding, isn't it? You're all amazed. And Gemini Live, which now offers free voice services in Korea. In the US, Gemini Live operates with the camera simultaneously. But I see this as going beyond multimodality. Multimodality means it can analyze video and images and analyze sound and understand speech. But look, if a large piece of ice drops, shatters and scatters towards me to analyze that sound, it needs to understand physical laws to some extent. The sound of an object shattering when dropped, the sound of a single lump falling with a thud, versus the sound when it breaks into multiple pieces. All these create friction sounds. And if the camera angle represents the listener's auditory position, then it's defining the decibel level of the ice based on its size and proximity. This means it understands the physical world, the law of gravity, the laws of physics. This is a bridge towards physical AI. I firmly believe that VO3 incorporates DeepMind's World Foundation model, which NVIDIA calls physical AI. I think physical AI is partially integrated, and Demis Hassabis mentioned this in an interview afterward. He said, "You can't reach AGI with language models alone. AGI can be reached when world models are combined and various models are integrated. The path to AGI cannot be traversed by language models alone." We can infer this indirectly. In February 2025, Google announced its participation in the humanoid business with its world model and acquired a stake in Aptronic. They decided to use a world model, and because Meta is also working on world models, Google said they would also enter the humanoid business. Having a world model now means everyone is getting into it. All places researching language models are simultaneously working on world models. And Elon Musk, in a recent interview, said that Optimus isn't at that stage yet, but they are preparing for it. To train Optimus currently, a person basically wears special motion capture equipment and performs actions in front of the robot. Cleaning trash, chopping food, throwing out garbage bags. The robot learns by observing these direct motions, all connected by wires. But what Tesla is preparing for is for humanoid robots to learn by watching YouTube how-to videos. To do that, when you watch those YouTube videos, the robot needs to understand spatial awareness from them.
Humans know that.
Yes, humans know. The depth of the space, whether that distant mountain is far or if a train is approaching, it gets bigger, the sound gets louder. We are accustomed to understanding these things by watching videos, understanding the world and physical laws by seeing. If this is the World Foundation model, then world models are currently being researched by everyone. Elon Musk and Tesla are, of course, researching world models, and this is being applied to FSD. They say it's already being applied, and they are trying to develop Optimus to a level where it can understand physical laws just by watching videos. If that happens, and you provide video input along with H100 or Blackwell GPUs, they say humanoids can rapidly increase their understanding of human actions, the human world, the spaces humans inhabit, their understanding of the world, and that their performance can increase exponentially fast. And VO3 demonstrated exactly that. And Google's Gemini Live, when I turn on the camera in real time, processes video multimodally. If that's multimodality, then in processing the video, it accurately calculates the depth, distance, and these aspects to assist me. So already, Google Gemini Live can be helpful for visually impaired individuals. And for them, it's not just what's in front of you, but what's X meters in front of you. This would naturally be helpful for autonomous driving. That kind of vision processing is happening. But it's not just about perception, processing vision. It also calculates reactions based on how to respond, advising on what to do according to your walking speed. It's a service that accompanies me with an understanding of the physical world that goes beyond vision processing. So, what did they say at Google I/O? That it will be an AI that accompanies you in any space at any moment. What that means is, wherever I am on my computer or wherever I go with my smartphone, it becomes my eyes and ears and my voice. It intends to accompany me. In this regard, this understanding of the physical world, that's why I think the title From Research to Reality was so well chosen. It's beyond simply bringing lab research into practical service. It's about AI entering reality. The next step for AI is, while language models are important and will continue to be developed, this demonstration of a new service phase that merges language models with world models is why I think this Google I/O holds such immense significance.
In the case of glass, for example, does it become more meaningful because this World Foundation model is integrated?
Presumably, basic vision processing has been developing for a long time. It's already in the Galaxy S25 and iPhones. So vision processing is fundamentally there, and vision processing is essentially sensing. Understanding glass through sensory processing, the understanding part, is something a world model can do. So I believe if glass evolves with a world model, a much more meaningful evolution can emerge. If it can connect to the high-end computing power of a smartphone and utilize various models, then the functions achievable through that connection will allow us to spread our imaginative wings even further, I believe. That's why I say you need to look closely at form factors. Regarding a form factor that can beat the smartphone, I heard OpenAI recently made a large acquisition of a company related to Jony Ive. I believe it will be difficult for an independent form factor to emerge that can beat the smartphone anytime soon. However, form factors that work with smartphones can become diverse, because the smartphone will do the computation. Why? Because in the future, world models will also evolve like language models, and to keep running these evolving world models, even if they become highly lightweight, so what if they're lightweight? Gemini flashes out, but better services will also continue to emerge. For Gemini to handle these models, you need the smartphone's computing power, you need the smartphone's battery. Just like Apple Watch or any smartwatch, be it Apple or Samsung's Galaxy Watch attaches to it, I think glass, whether it's Ray-Ban or Gentle Monster, is worth a try for Ray-Ban and Gentle Monster. Therefore, I believe it will be a very interesting game.
So what Google unveiled at I/O this time in terms of business-altering aspects seems to be primarily these two, the search market and the World Foundation model. For the search market, it seems they've brought about market change and innovation, even to the point of somewhat abandoning their own core business. And for the foundation model, it's like they've jumped into an area where Meta was perhaps leading.
Even though they've jumped in, I believe they will progress at a very rapid pace. There's also the aspect of partnering, similar to Meta. But everyone will go for this World Foundation model. All those working on frontier language models will go there. So now, in 2025, services and the mass market will move beyond language models to a phase where world models and language models combine. This is what makes it attractive. I think the pace of AI development and performance competition is accelerating tremendously, and I see 2025 as the year it truly ignited. Combined with the expansion of the consumer AI market, the B2C market, what might be called the full-fledged market, enormous competition is taking place.
This time, a thought I had while watching was that, amidst all this, as you said, Google wasn't really the one leading the technological trends in the consumer AI market linked to the general public, not for the past 2 or 3 years anyway. But this time, I felt like, are they taking the lead a bit? So there seems to be that kind of change. As you said, with the concept of Googling completely changing, how to get selected by AI will become very important. This will be crucial for media like us, for bloggers, and for people in marketing and PR. For that, perhaps Dr. Kang, you could do more reverse engineering, and we can prepare something together to inform many people. We'll get that ready. This was such urgent news, so we prepared it quickly. Thank you again for your detailed insights.
Thank you for inviting me.